Oh, I got a lot of JPY,
Oh man.
all those guys. So yeah, I mean, a lot of my analysis lines up as you just described. There's a lot of scenarios last week that didn't play out that are still valid. So we kind of shifted them over, changed a couple things, and yeah, so it looks pretty good. We'll get into it here though. We got about 20 people. All right, start sharing up in a second.
Here we go. You got you got your gold analysis this week?
Yep. And as I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, I'm going to do a little bit more of a detailed breakdown on gold because we have been kind of watching the daily. And it's kind of funny because we're watching the daily time frame because there was so much consolidation between two zones. We wanted to kind of wait for it to break that range, figure out where it wanted to go. But then we got a huge amount of volume. So then we had to wait for it to finish, doing what it was doing. And now we're at a new low. But we'll get into that in a second. So it's just interesting. It's funny because we were waiting for too little volume. Now there's too much volume. So we're trying to find something right in the middle. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So we're going to start off on DXY. And for those of you that don't know, we don't actually trade DXY. We use it more so as a gauge as to what the dollar's doing, right? Because we know that the dollar makes up for 80% of all trade. It moves a lot of the market when you see that volume stepping in. So it's a good idea to see what the dollar's doing, right? We're going to mark it up. The TA still applies. We're following price action. We're still identifying trends and such. So it's good to you just know what the dollar's doing, and then we can kind of apply that, just keep that in the back of our mind, even on certain pairs. Okay, especially US dollar pairs. All right. So again, here we are on the US dollar. Let's go to the daily time frame real quick. And all that I want to grab from here is the trend, very simply. We had recently broken above this monthly zone. Key significant key zone was resistance, right? We broke above, got a higher low, started consolidating. Clearly, there's a lot of price action now above this zone. It's more bullish than anything else. We're getting higher highs, higher lows, you know, and so on. So it's bullish. Let's go to the 4 hour with that in mind. Okay, so daily is bullish. What's the 4 hour doing? 4 hour was bullish, right? Kind of riding that trend, but then we did establish a bit of a range. We tried to break to the upside. It didn't follow through, right? We got the higher low and everything, but it didn't follow through with conviction. The candles kind of failed out there and fell back into the range. But the interesting thing here is the volume is kind of maintaining, but it looks like almost the range is like kind of expanding, right? So it's like we have new resistance up here, which we touched, and we also dropped a little bit lower for support and then pushed back. So the volume's increasing more or less. So how do we figure out where it's going without all this kind of fake outs, if you will? So ideally, we're looking for a higher low above this support level, right at 92.5. So ideally, a reversal here. And then we want to see it follow through with this same amount of volume, right? That same energy. We just want to see it kind of transition into bullish pressure, right? Okay, so that would be nice to see. The 200 EMA is right there as well. If we got a nice MA cross, just more confirmations kind of adding to that. So this would be the most conservative, the most idealistic friggin' trade scenario for this one. And it's been kind of frustrating here because like when there's a lot of fake outs, you really just want to be patient and really just wait all the way through for that confirmation and that conviction. Because this sucks, right? You thought it was going bullish, massive rejection, then just completely faked out and drop lower. So, right, that's what we want to see. That higher low at this point, but it could continue lower, right? It could blow right through this zone, drop right to support, drop to the lower end of this range here. So that's definitely possible. Not the most likely from what I'm gathering on this so far, but definitely a possibility. And it, could even drop a little bit further, in which case we'd reanalyze and then come up with two other trade scenarios for the dollar here. All right, so let's move over to AU. See what's going on here. Daily time frame to start. What are we grabbing from this time frame? Just the trend. Okay, so clearly very bearish now. This wasn't a large range. This was more or less neutral, and then it went bearish once it's broke. Got the lower highs, lower lows, so on, and major characteristics of a bearish trend. Okay, but even on this daily time frame, we can see that we're currently in an area of consolidation. So let's check that out. Okay, we know we're overall bearish. Is this going to continue? What are the signs we need to see to kind of ride that trend? That's always where we want to kind of, get in on trades. We're always trying to ride the trend. That's where the highest probability trades will be. So that's why this is the most likely that we'll be looking to short first. Okay, so we are kind of at resistance right now. It's still pretty much at the top end of this range. We had some fake outs here, but definitely a well-defined range, right? So key resistance is right here actually at 0.738. And that's where we're looking for a reversal right now. And it looks like it's following through with that. Now, if this forms in such a way you could get an entry there on the lower time frame, if I see a sort of pattern, right confirmations, lower time frame, transitions and such, I would consider an entry here, but it's got to be absolutely perfect. Because if you're taking a trade within a range, there is a little bit more risk involved, opposed to waiting for the range to break, right? If we cleared lower, saw a lower high, and then a continuation, that would obviously be more of a higher probability trade, right? So we really want to see this first. You could take the trade there, but then ideally we want to see it kind of follow through and continue breaking lower. Okay, for us to consider AU bullish, we really need to get above 0.74. I really want this to be a significant push into this zone because it's got to clear these prior highs, right? If it comes up and just meets them, it's really not good enough. You even if we got the higher low at that point, you really just want to just make sure that this is clearly broken, that we're well above the range, and then that it's going to follow through. So nice break followed by a higher low, nice continuation. Then we could be looking at some nice long opportunities, and then we'll start targeting resistance and start plotting trades, after that. All right, so that's AU, but yeah, good amount of consolidation. I mean, all the way back here since July, right? Good amount of consolidation. So hopefully that breaks, and when it does, I would expect a good amount of volume. Usually when it's that much of a range or that much consolidation, it's a pretty good move. Like we've seen over here. Nice drops, good pushes. All right, so that's AU. Let's move over to AJ. Daily time frame, same thing, and it's looking bearish right now. We've been bearish on AJ for a little while. I mean, you guys, if you've tuned into some of these other Sunday market blitzes or the Friday market reviews, you guys generally have an idea of what we're looking at on a weekly basis and our sentiment behind that. So we've been pretty bearish here on AJ. The transition happened here once we really broke this weekly, and up here too. So this was like this whole leg here kind of broke two major zones. This minor level up here and then down here at 83.25, and that really kind of set this whole bearish trend off. Right? We started getting these exaggerated, bearish legs to the downside, nice lower lows, lower highs, so on and so on. But then, as we saw in AU, we're seeing here also on AJ that there's a bit of consolidation. So we ideally want to ride the trend. We want to continue bearish. That's where our interest lies. Definitely the best trades are going to be riding that trend. So let's go to the 4-hour, see if we could see any signs of this pushing lower and if there's any trades happening, right? Okay, so here's that consolidation all in here, right? And this one's kind of messed around a little bit more than AU if you want to compare the two. Definitely has messed around a little bit more, a little more exaggerated, as we were saying. But actually, I like the way this looked when it was zoomed down a little bit. 6-7 that a little. All right, that looks good. So yeah, a little more exaggerated, right? This is definitely more like a bearish trend, and then it kind of shifted up, went bullish a little bit, even got the higher low. You could see like I have this one trend line, it looks like a little bullish channel. But either way, it's been messing around these two zones, 81.4 as resistance, 80.75 as support. And finally, now we're getting quite a few confirmations that it's gonna break. And really all we need at this point is a lower high confirming that it's broken and that's the true break and that we're looking for the next push lower. So that's what we could see right now. Honestly, I would like to see this continue a little bit lower, pull back for the retest, enter on some nice bearish setups, confirming the reversal and the lower high. So this is probably going to take a little bit to play out, but this is definitely looking pretty good for this week. And this is looking nice. So we'll see how this plays out. But for us to be bullish on AJ, I mean, first it could pull back into the range, and then one could argue you could buy off a higher low of the range, target the top. But really, the most conservative trade, if you're looking to go long, would be a higher low above 81.4. Right? That means price action would pull all the way back up, break resistance. This would be more or less of a fake out that we're seeing right now, and then it would continue, with characteristics of a bullish trend. Higher highs, which would be about here, higher low, continuation, and so on and so on. So clearly we're closer to this trade path, this short scenario than this. That's why this is the most likely and most probable for the week ahead. So it's looking pretty good. That's AJ. Pretty good. And now UJ, freaking the volume monster. This thing is looking nuts, dude. So let's take a look at this thing. A little messy on the daily, but we'll get down to a second. All we need again from here is the trend, right? Overall, we're very bullish, but we can clearly see that there's a large amount of bearish volume now. So let's just kind of dissect this a little bit further. Clearly, we were bullish along this whole trend here, right? We started seeing a little bit of consolidation at this point, and then it started pushing lower, right? Huge wicks to the downside, down towards 109.15, and then three tops too. So we can see three tops just above 110. Let's call it 110.5, and then two tops here at 109.15. So this is looking like pretty much a high volume range, right? Price action is bouncing like a ping pong between these two levels, and because it's a large range, you're seeing a lot of movement, a lot of dramatic movement. So there could be some moves within this. We're going to get to this on the 4 hour in a second, but just keep in mind that this is a major level of support, 109.15, and that's really the max we're interested in targeting for this week. And then if it hits that level, we'll reanalyze. But if it gets above, 110, so let's just get to that in a second. Let's just go to the 4 hour. Just get a closer look. Let's zoom around a little.
When in doubt,
So again,
go to the 4 hour.
yeah, large volume, guys. That's the only way to really take a look at UJ properly, because everything looks so skewed because everything's kind of mashed together because this chart's been crazy. But either way, the volume is very significant, very significant, right? So we had this initial break. This was really the transition of that 110 level that sent us bearish. Nice lower high, huge volume, pushed into 109, and then massive rejection. The thing went bullish from there. And then we were waiting for a higher low. We were going to see if it was going to continue. It didn't continue. As you can see, more or less just tested this area and then came shooting right back down. So based on this, it's looking bearish. Now we know the volume's going to continue. So we're just looking for a retest of 110, and then it's going to shoot to the downside. Right? That's really what the most likely scenario is right now. Other than that, it could just start consolidating at this point, which there'd be really no trade, and we'd have to reanalyze and just wait for something to play out. But for right now, this is really what we're interested in looking at or getting in on, is a nice retest of 110. MAs are right there as well. That'd be a good time to see rejection, and we could enter on some nice bearish setups at that point. But again, like if this does pull back all the way through 110, like the secondary scenario suggests, and we see a higher low above, we might consider long opportunities at that point. So that's what's kind of tricky when you see this kind of crazy volume, is that you really need to see price action react at major zones. Otherwise, it's going to blow right through them. So like if price action pulls back to 110 and doesn't hesitate, doesn't reject, doesn't give us a pretty good reversal with good volume, it's going to become pretty unclear as to what's going to happen next, because it could shoot to the upside or it could just kind of flatline. So, we'll see. Hopefully this momentum continues and we'll be off to some good short opportunities. But yeah, that's UJ. Not the cleanest chart, just so much volume. It's friggin' nuts. Let me just see something here. Let's see if a pattern exists here. Some other pattern. Yeah, not even really. I mean, that would just kind of suggest that we go back down to here. Interesting. So yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. This is definitely where I'll be interested in looking for trades, and then we'll play it accordingly. But yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on this one, how it plays out. But let's move on to EJ. All right, this one's looking pretty clean in comparison. Pretty nice to see from EJ. Let's go to the daily real quick and just grab the trend. So this one's been forming good structure. Clearly, we're bearish after a nice long reversal up here. Good bearish volume into the market, broke some higher lows, full transition to the downside, nice lower highs there. And then we just saw a really healthy bearish trend up until recently, where we saw a little bit of consolidation, slowing of price action. But overall, we're bearish. So let's go to the 4 hour. Expand the chart here. And this one's looking pretty good. We are overall, bearish here. We're looking for shorts. And we did see, kind of a little descending triangle here. More or less just represents that we were breaking lower time frame structure. It's making a push to the downside. So ideally, we'd like to catch a nice retest short opportunity here, just confirming the break, and then continuation lower. So that would be a really nice, quick, short opportunity right there. Probably wouldn't be too long of a trade at all if that does play out in that way. I mean, it definitely could just drop now, and then there's no trade. That would kind of suck. But it also could, pull back to 130 and still remain overall bearish. So the good thing about this on EJ is we're really just looking for lower highs, and we could be getting into some nice short opportunities. Whether the lower high is right here or if it's up here, this would just be a test of a prior lower high. But either way, we're looking at pretty decent short scenarios. Structure's looking nice and clear on EJ here. So for us to go long, to consider EJ bullish, just need to get back above 130 with a nice higher low, and then it needs to follow through with that break. Okay, so not this over here. This is literally the perfect example of what you don't want to see. This is not how you properly transition through a zone, right? This was price action's attempt to break 130. We need to see that higher low and then see it follow through. Didn't happen. We got lower high after lower high, and then eventually it broke. Okay, so we need to see it clearly break and then follow through. All right, so yeah, it's looking pretty clear on EJ. Nice to see. This thing kind of throws you for a loop sometimes, but yeah, looking good this week. So let's jump over to gold. Oh man. Oh man. All right, daily time frame. Let's get into it. We've been avoiding it, right, guys? We're hiding from this monster, whatever. So overall, we're bearish with ridiculous volume, just absolutely absurd. So we were consolidating here. This is where we wanted to be patient, right? This is what I was referring to earlier at the beginning of the webinar, is how price action was stuck between two zones. Now, weekly resistance 1825, support 1800. We were just waiting for that to break. We wanted to see a lower high below or a higher low above to then make a decision and say, okay, it's either bullish or bearish. So what happened? The thing just got pushed off a cliff. It shot all the way to probably the lowest we've seen in a pretty long time, which was 1675, right? It shot all the way back down to that zone and then pulled all the way back. So now we actually have an interesting opportunity, because if we get a lower high right here, again, let's say this pushes up a little bit, consolidates just a little bit, gives us a reversal, nice evening star or something, bullish variation. This could be a great short opportunity. And it would look something like this. Where is my trade path? Let's say it pushes up. This is maybe a double top even, something like this. Where's the right color? There it is. And then we're looking to enter somewhere in there. This could be a pretty nice short opportunity. Right, obviously that would be your max target, but you could have other TPs along the way. The whole point is this could be a really good risk to reward, 3-to-1 right there, right? So this could be interesting to see. Just depends on how price action reacts at 1800. And as we know in the past, typically, as price action is above this zone, 1800, it's very bullish. We see massive rejections. Typically, as price action is below, we're seeing bearishness for the most part. And this zone even extends way, way beyond recent price action. But, this has just been a proven zone. Very, very significant zone, right? So the same is opposite if we were to consider gold bullish, right? We need to see price action break back into this range. And then ideally, it would continue with this momentum. It wouldn't get stuck in the range again, because that would really suck. But, if it did have the momentum to break back above, it's probably going to continue. And a good way to confirm that is with a nice higher low. Okay, either above 1800 slightly or 1825. All depends on how it plays out. But we're definitely looking for shorts first. This is more likely of a scenario to play out before this one. All right, so that's gold. Yeah, we'll see. Sometimes gold's a pain in the ass. Sometimes it gives you great trade after trade, and then sometimes it leaves you hanging for weeks. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys. All right, so just a reminder, you guys can go through all of these. Again, they're like pretty much live charts. You can play them forward any point in the week to see how these ideas are developing. You can find them in the Discord and the Telegram. So yeah, awesome. Good stuff.
Nice. All right, cool.
Yeah, gold has been crappy. It has. Crazy. Yeah, it has, Tom.
Can trade based on news. All right, so I'm gonna hop on. Like I said in the beginning, I've kind of already got my ideas down. I'm gonna drop my analysis in the chat afterwards, but we're gonna take a start. We're gonna start just on GJ. This is a trade that was given out pretty much on last week's call. So as we can see here, we're starting to get into a good amount of profits now, coming up onto the weekly time frame. We can clearly see how last week closed. And again, going into this entire idea, this is what we were seeing on the weekly. We had broken support at this point, we had pushed below, and then we were coming back to retest this resistance right here. If we look left, this is also previous resistance. And look how these candles are forming, the spinning top candle. So just a lot of like uncertainty as to whether this is going to push up, because we have these two weekly zones. It touched this zone. It was very likely that it was then going to reach this zone, and then look how weak it got. So a lot of indecision, which tells me we could now push back down into this level, or at least at a minimum down into this support level right here at 151, like 400, right around that area. So that's the weekly analysis. Again, on the weekly time frame, guys, for you guys that are trying to learn the strategy a bit, pretty much looking for two things: mark your zones and then just look at price action. So did our little breakdown. Let's go down to the 4-hour now. So if we just zoom out on the 4-hour, we can clearly see that the 4-hour has been in a downtrend. So we've been making these lows, lower high, and then we started to finish out with another lower low, lower high, lower low. And then we came up to retest this level not only once, twice, 3 times. So beginning last week, this is where we were at. We were expecting it to reverse off of this area. And now we're getting towards our first TP level. So let's go ahead and see. Yeah, there's about 1.35 risk reward now in the trade. So we're getting to our first TP level. I am expecting price to reverse off of this area. We have all of this room to kind of play with right here. So we're going to maintain the trade. If it comes all the way up to break even, then we'll most likely exit the order. But we can't take any more sells unless we get a break below the support. So if it breaks below the support, that's the only way we'll start to sell this thing one more time. We don't want to get caught selling right here and then it retraces literally, 100 pips, whatever, to the upside on us. So we want to be patient. If it does break below this level, which it hasn't gotten below in a few weeks since July, so 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, we're gonna just wait until it gets below there. So that's GJ, just looking for shorts on this one. That's the bias for the week. Next, let's go to NU. So NU is another trade that we gave out actually on the call last week. This is right where we started at. This is where we gave the long idea, came into some drawdown, and as you can see now, we're kind of maintaining this upward push. Coming up to the weekly time frame, very similar to GJ weekly, we've got our weekly lower zone, our weekly higher zone. We're in the, at the bottom, retesting it. Look at all these wicks, these spinning top candles coming off of this level. So telling us price is ready to kind of reverse. I'm expecting it to come all the way up at least to like 715 area. We have support at this level now turned into resistance. So I am expecting price to revisit there, considering we just rejected the bottom. So we do have some room to come up. As we come down to the daily, we had a bit of a falling wedge. So price was getting a wedge to the downside. Whenever this pops out, normally it reverses and goes to the upside, which we can clearly see. This thing popped out. That was the retest. That's where we were trying to long. And this is where we're currently at now. So where are the targets on this, and would I enter now? Personally, I would not enter at the moment because of the fact that we could retrace all the way down pretty much to this area at 40, like about 40 pips. So we have a lot of room to come down right now. So I would not enter. If it does come down, retest this area, potentially would re-enter, but we are pretty much just looking to maintain the positions that we are in and get this thing to the upside. Remember, we're only trying to enter on higher lows, and looking at how structure is actually starting to form right now. I'm just going to take this off, clean it up a little bit. We are starting to get some like minor structure to form now within this area, which isn't that great. We do need price to now break above this level. This is now becoming more of a significant level. We've already rejected it one time. So if price does manage to get above here, that would be kind of the next area to take your longs. Just getting in on the re-entry right there, because this is our main resistance that we're looking at. Even like a bit lower, we can actually lower this a little bit more. We'll lower it to about here. Just looking left, it's not, you know, exactly just one line. We could more make it this zone. So we're trying to get above kind of this zone right here. And if we do, that's when we'll look for the retest, and that's when we'll be able to take advantage potentially of this trade. So let's see, is fib useful in the weekly time frame? I personally don't use it on the weekly time frame. You know, it's just part of my strategy. Weekly time frame, the only things that I really use are going to be my key levels and price action. So I'm not really putting like the fib tool or any other really technical tools on the weekly. That's more for like the daily and the 4-hour time frame for me. When I do enter this, I'll most likely wait on the 4-hour. I don't really need to get down to the lower time frame. I'll just wait and see how a candle closes above here. And then on the little bit of a retest, that's when we'll look to get in on this. Now, on the flip side, you know, what if GJ just starts to tank and ends up breaking this area? So if GJ comes all the way down here, guys, like we have a lot of room for this thing to come down. If it comes back to entry, we don't want to be in a long anymore. Just think of it logically. If you're in a long right now and price comes down to this area and you entered here, you do not want to be in that trade anymore. So because of the fact that that's going to be going through our mind, and also obviously this is support that would break, this would be kind of entry number 2, is if price did manage to get back below support, that's when we would look to actually take advantage of some long opportunities. So let me go back on. I saw I deleted this. So I'm just going to mark that back up, and then I'm going to mark down here a level right here. Very cool. So that's NZD USD. I'm gonna just bump to DXY because I haven't even taken a look at it myself. So last week is actually interesting. So last week we started right here. We were talking about this 93.7 level or 93.00. So this is obviously a significant level. Coming up to the weekly time frame to see it a little bit better. Price had respected this level once, twice already. So I was expecting it to reverse. And I remember I was saying, we're only trying to really buy the dollar if it makes it above 93. 93 is held as resistance pretty well. And then as we can see, what happened, price came up to 93, all the way to the peak, and then ended up reversing. So we had marked this supply zone down here, ended up actually getting above that supply zone. But as we can see right now, you know, we're kind of in a tricky spot. We just broke support on the 4-hour. Momentum certainly shifted. Coming up to the daily time frame, where is really the next level of support? I mean, looking at it as we zoom out and looking at this as sort of my significant little level, is this area the next level of support, more down 92.2. And obviously down at this support level as well. I don't know if it'll get that much lower, but I am looking for the dollar to shoot down a little bit more right now. With that in mind, if the dollar is going lower, then NU will be going higher, most likely, if the dollar is losing value. UCAD, which we haven't even taken a look at, but NU, again, will most likely be going higher if that is the case. If the dollar starts to break that 93, that's when we could really see NU start to fall off and to tank to the downside. Let's go to UCAD next. This is another trade that was given out last week. We just happened to be on the right side of a lot of trades last week after two kind of so-and-so weeks. So on UCAD, on the weekly time frame, we've had all this momentum to the downside, breaking support, retesting over and over again. We can see how I've mapped it all out. These are all the lower lows and lower highs. Now we are retesting this resistance level. You can see the large wick coming into last week. This is kind of how I looked at this. We had broken above resistance here, then we found it as support. Now I want to see, how are we going to retest this level? This is the level that was broken and then tested as support right here. Let's get off of this. Boom. So this is really the key level here. Price came up, failed to engulf last week. Then we had some sell-off, which we were expecting. But this week, what is kind of our play on this one? On the 4-hour, we could see we are uptrending a little bit. We did just break below support, retested as resistance, and then had a fall off. Really, for me to continue to take short ideas on this one, I want to see the trend establish a little bit more. That's why originally I wanted to see this trend line break. Now we have this support level that we just drew on the weekly. So I want to see price really get below there as well. If we want to be more aggressive, I mean, look how price currently is trending. We broke support right here. This is more minor, but we came back up. If we retest this and it acts as resistance, you can certainly get in on this trade again and start riding into the downside. You can see we already achieved like a 1-to-1 on that one, but we are looking to swing this thing much lower if possible. So we'll see, if the dollar goes, down, then UCAD will most likely continue with this bearish trend and we'll get that next lower low and continue to ride this thing out. So let's go to GU next. GU has been the sloppiest pair out of all the ones I've been following the last 2 weeks or so, just up and down. Coming up to the weekly time frame, we took a look at this last week. Again, just this weekly kind of head and shoulders pattern right here. And we are potentially now in a position to form that right shoulder. Last week, didn't help that case. We had this doji candle. Dojis obviously are signaling potentially some sort of reversal. So I don't love that doji was just formed. Coming down to the daily time frame, I'm actually just gonna clear this because I'm not even in this trade, and we're just gonna act as though we're starting kind of from scratch here. Let's take all this off. And normally when I don't have trades running over the weekend, like I'll just clear everything because I like to just have a very unbiased viewpoint and then come back in and see like, okay, where is the potential? So looking at this now, I can see we're in no man's land. We're not at a low, we're not at a high. We just rejected this level, but this doji candle is telling me we could now see a swing to the upside because price pushed down, then we found indecision, we found support, then this could then signal that we're going to the upside. So 4-hour time frame, this is where we ultimately have to decide what does structure look like, and structure is very clearly very bearish. So structure is very bearish. For those that don't understand, why, we're pretty much in this uptrend right here, forming these higher highs and higher lows. And then we ended up pulling back, came up, a little consolidation, and then boom, we started getting to the downside right here. And then this is where we're currently at. So we're currently in this like downward trend. So for me, in order to take advantage of that potential buy, this is my key level, this little 4-hour zone. This is when I would take a buy. When we break above this resistance, break this trend, it is trending right now to the downside. we just map it out. I don't really love trend lines, but we are down, we're trending to the downside right now. If we do get above here, that's when I will take my long opportunity. But on the flip side, if this thing just comes back into the zone and we see a candle much like this, comes up, rejection, automatically take shorts. So it's really going to come down to revisiting this zone. I do believe we're still going to get in this area and we're going to revisit this zone at some point. So I am going to wait until it gets there before doing anything. If price just shoots down now, I simply don't have a trade. I don't have a trade idea. I don't have an option to really take a position or anything like that. So that's what I'm waiting on. I'm going to wait for the break and the retest to go long. So I'm just going to map this out. What's good? There. So I'm just going to map this out. And, if it does break above here, we're not going to just long right away, guys. So, yeah, I'm not going to just long right away. Like, I'm going to obviously wait and see it establish some sort of trend to the upside. And if it does, because it could come up a little bit higher, but then the following two candles close below, and we're taking longs, and it just shoots to the downside, So yeah, we got to be a bit patient. I'll post this one up afterwards. And then Youssef, this one last week, basically we were waiting on this one and it ended up playing out really well. So coming up to the weekly time frame, you can clearly see how last week formed. We have this huge doji from the upside, rejecting it. No wick to the downside, so I don't really love that. But at the same time, when we come to the daily, we can clearly see price broke support right here, retested as resistance, and dumped. So coming to the 4 hour now, we can clearly see as well, like last week, this is where we were at, right in this area. And I had mapped out 2 different zones to take shorts off of. This right here was pretty much like zone number 1. This thing ended up getting like blasted to the upside. We never got rejection. See how it never rejected this level? It just shot up. So there was no reason to take an entry there. But then once we got up here, we got this evening star, boom. And then we got this huge conviction candle. And this is ultimately where I would have been taking shorts, like right as we're rejecting this again. Boom, and then it ends up shooting up. So it ends up coming into some drawdown, double tops. And then we get the following 2 candles, closes, comes to the downside. So when would I enter now? I would be more aggressive because it does look like this thing is primed to get to the downside. We do have this resistance right here. So this is what our re-entries would look like, basically be targeting here. If we want to be really safe, we put stops up here. If we want to be much more aggressive, we literally just put stops like right in this area because we have the resistance right here. So that's, my idea on Youssef. So went over Youssef, GU, UCAD, NU, GJ. All the analysis will be posted in the Telegram shortly. And there's going to be a bunch of updates coming out this week, specifically for Forex League. So I'll keep you guys tomorrow. We'll keep you guys updated. If you're interested in the signals, the sale is pretty much over at this point. It ended yesterday. But yeah, just stay in the Telegram and we'll get those updates out to you guys. And obviously the replay will be posted as well. Did you guys check your USD? I'll check. I didn't check it, but I'll pull it up real quick. I haven't been following Euro USD. You can see ever since kind of this move, haven't actually been charting Euro USD, but we can just take a look at it really quickly. Let's bump up to the weekly time frame. Remember, on the weekly, all I'm looking for is a very zoomed out point of view, like where are my kind of key levels here. I'm just going to move this down. You can clearly see that this was a zone that was tested. And that's still relevant to this day. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit more in this area. And then on the flip side, if we're looking at the weekly to the downside, so we're coming to definitely like a level of support right now. So these are my weekly zones. That's how I map it out. Just very simple. I try to just zoom out. What is this based on? You might be asking. We had support here. We have resistance all in this area. We had support all in this area. But more importantly, support there. And then again, we're getting some support in this area. And then on the upside, we have a bunch of different points. We have this. We have this area. And then we have that, this, and even that area, but we're not gonna, that's so far back. So we're gonna make it more relevant to where we are. So then we'll look at price action last week. Let's see, last week we had this bullish candle close at the bottom, but the previous week was an engulfing candle. So I'm interested to see like down in the 4 hour, what does that look like? 4 hour, just bearish as hell, you know, nothing more to it. 4 hour is extremely bearish. It's looking a bit choppy, but if we just kind of map this out, you can see that this was a lower high point, and then I want to map out one more thing. Take it on this. Do this. So the two things that I'm basically looking at right now is going to be this level of resistance that had formed, and then this level of support, all in this area, resistance, resistance, resistance. And as we can see right here, this thing tanked off of that level. So I'm going to delete this upper zone because it's not even relevant, because we'd have to get through this resistance just to get there. So clearly I'm looking to take a short on this trade. But I'm not looking to take a short on it until it gets up into my zone. So I'd be waiting until it gets up into that area. This would be kind of my TP1. So I would want to base my stop loss around that. Or if I did want to get, you know, a little bit more crazy, obviously this would be the most conservative trade. You'd have stops above the resistance level. And then you'd have your targets back at the daily low. But if you wanted to get a little bit more aggressive with this, you'd throw your stops pretty much above the resistance right in this area. And you could have this kind of zone right here as your TP1. So you have a 3-to-1 or 2.3 risk reward. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, what do I do right now with your USD? For me personally, I wouldn't be doing much. If I was really trying to get into it and take a trade, if I was getting that, you know, desperate, this would be the trade, not desperate, but more of like an intraday, like, okay, what do I do until I get to that area? This would be the trade for me. I see, we got all this. I see that we have resistance right there, boom. So what I'm looking at is basically this level has support, but more recently, this support, this resistance, and then we have support right there. So we got multiple times when price touched this level and rejected it. So if we get above here, this is when I would take that long, and I'd be longing it into this resistance level. So on like the 30-minute and the lower time frame, if you were actually looking to like get in on that move, pretty much this is what it would look like if we did get a break above that level. It'd be like a 4-to-1 trade, but I'm not gonna worry too much because I'm just trading the 4 hour right now, trying to swing trade. So I'm not as worried about that level. Now, if we did want to potentially take our swing trade off that level, we could, but I'm looking at this as a way more important area, considering how price like really pushed off this area and also found support here, found resistance here. So I think when price gets there, we're really gonna get down. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me, guys. I hope you all have a good week this week. Definitely a lot of good setups that you can get into. And don't be afraid to use the analysis, you know, to your advantage. The analysis is free, you know, so we'll be posting it up, and just put it against yours. Look at the ideas. You know, if you see price come into this zone and you see like some rejection, don't be afraid to you know, take an order. So yeah, that's it for
Yeah.
me, guys. You got Nick in here. You muted or you good?
Oh no, I'm listening. I'm absorbing all this information. It's a lot to take.
Yeah,
No, guys, there's some good setups, but yeah, great points by Angelo. If you see something, you know, take it, guys. No one else is gonna come over and Nick's busy, Scout. Yeah, yeah, no one's gonna come over. I was gonna go over and click the mouse for you. You know, if you see it, if you see a trade, you feel good about it, you know, take it. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. And as we said before, if you want to reference the analysis, you have access all week as it's posted. And yeah, that's pretty much it, right?
well, yeah, we're good to go. So hope you guys have a good week this week, and we'll catch you at the end of the week on Friday when we review everything. So best of luck.
All right.
Not everybody.
Peace, guys.